Annyeonghaseyo, this is meowmurai. Let's continue our game of Despera Drops, running on Nintendo Switch 2.
騙される覚悟はできているか？
来るの遅いよ。
これでいいのか？
これで問題ありませんか？
Ash growled like a starving beast. He leapt toward House Steward, ready to clock him. Before Ash could land his punch, House Steward melted into the darkness. All that remained was the sound of Genevieve's labored breathing.
相変わらず逃げ足だけは速いやつね。
え、チャイルドナース？これアッシュの兄貴がやったの？
違う。ハウススチュワードだ。あいつの攻撃から俺をかばって。
かばった？
クラウンを裏切ったらしい。でもどうして俺をかばった？
まだ話は終わってないからさ。
Genevieve mustered all the energy she had left to turn her gaze on us.
アッシュ、あんたに伝言がある。あんたの父親からさ。
は？何言って。
あんたの父親を殺したのは私なんだよ。子猫ちゃん、手を。
Genevieve grabbed for me with her trembling hand. Right then, memories flooded my mind. Quite an interesting twist. Genevieve was standing in a dimly lit room, holding her box cutter. Her eyes were fixed on a man sitting in front of her, quaking in fear.
金が必要だったんだ。頼む。見逃してくれ。
ペーター・マイヤー、それはできない相談だって分かってるでしょ？
That was Ash's father's name. This might have been her memory of when she killed him. Genevieve's cold, dark emotions pulsed through me. She was about to murder someone, but there was no hesitation, no sentiment, no guilt in her eyes. Her thoughts were only of the man she saw as her father. For him, she was ready and willing to kill Peter Meyer. This man at her feet had caused headaches for her father, giving her more than enough reason to end him. She swung the box cutter without mercy.
あんたが盗んだ金は手をつけちゃいけないものだったの。本当はあんたも知ってるんじゃない？あそこは見ちゃいけない場所だったの。見てしまった時からこうなる運命だったのよ。何か言い残すことはあるかしら？伝言ぐらい聞いてあげるわ。
せめて俺のことは保険が下りるように事故で死んだことにしてくれ。あいつに金を残してやらねえと。
元よりそのつもりよ。私たちの存在を知られるわけにはいかないもの。ただの事故死に仕立ててあげるわ。
ならよかった。あとは最後に俺の息子に伝言だ。息子に伝えてくれ。アッシュ、お前は
最後に父親はあんたに言ってたよ。お前は俺みたいになるなってさ。あんたに会うまでそんな約束忘れてたけどね。 あんたの父親はさ、そもそも酒の飲みすぎで先が長くなかったんだ。だからやばいと分かってて、クラウンの資金に手を出したんだろうね。きっとあんたの母親に金を残すために。ただじゃ死なないなんてさ、死の間際に息子に詫びるなんて私のクソ親よりずっとマシじゃないか。とにかく頼まれてた伝言は伝えたからね。
Those were her last words. She helplessly collapsed, rendering us speechless. Ash took a few steps forward and closed her eyes. The peaceful dawn breeze blew gently around us. Switzerland, Baden, September 13th, 2028, 7 p.m. Wednesday, Meyer home. I'm assuming that's... Oh, no, it's a.m., never mind. After that, people from Crown came over to retrieve Genevieve's corpse, so we hid away in Ash's house for the time being. Carla gaped in wide-eyed surprise at the 7 people gathered in her house in the morning.
あらあら、まあまあ、ペーターったらまたたくさんのお客様を呼んで、もしかしてお仕事のお仲間かしら。
まあ。
じゃあ皆さんも鉱山で働いている方なのね。今皆さんのお食事を作るわ。
Carla flashed Ash a smile. He looked gloomier than ever because of what he had heard from child nurse.
もう朝からどうしたのよ。あなたの好物を作るからその顔を直してちょうだい。お客さんに失礼だわ。
Despite our group's unexpected arrival, Carla was already warm and welcoming. While she was busy in the kitchen, everyone turned their eyes on us.
これどういうこと？
ペーター、アッシュのことか。
実は。
Our friends' faces turned solemn as Ash explained how his mother mistook him for her late husband.
そうか。それは大変だったな。
そのおかげで仕事仲間だと思われているのはありがたいな。通報もされなさそうだ。どいつもこいつも鉱山で働いてそうには見えないけどな。
行員その1です。
行員その2です。
Oh, Camu.
いや、絶対その設定無理あると思う。
それよりお前たちはどうしてあそこにいたんだ？それはもちろん、お前たちを探しに来たんだ。
そうそう。てか聞いたよ。あのおじいちゃんにスマホ壊されてからサリーたちほんと不便でさ。でも昨日ようやく新しいやつゲットして復旧できたの。そしたらお姉ちゃんがちょうど連絡くれてた履歴があってさ、それ見て追ってきたんだ。
いやー、まさかあの一撃で僕たちのスマホが破壊されるとはさすがに思っていませんでしたよ。おかげでスクショの宝が全部消えました。
我々を分断させ、一人ずつ殺すつもりだったんだろう。あの後私たちもバラバラに逃げる羽目になってな。だがある時、急に追っ手が減って、おかげで我々は合流できたんだ。
多分だが、お二人さんが逃げ回るもんだから、やっこさんもそっちを追うのに総力を集結させたんじゃないか。それであんだけ追ってきてたのか。
Things had been so hard before we sought refuge at Daniel's house. We were chased relentlessly, almost caught a few times.
いやー、無事でよかったです。
でもスマホが壊れちゃったせいで僕はまだ連絡先復元できてないんだよな。ってことでもう一回連絡先交換しようぜ。
As we exchanged contact information for the second time, it finally sank in that we'd reunited.
皆さんも無事で本当に良かったです。
簡単にくたばるようなやつはここにはいないからな。
それでここからどうする？
それなんだが。
We shared what we'd learned while we were apart, as well as the things Genevieve told us. We explained that we were all gathered in that vehicle solely to steal the Corona d'Argento, and how Chancellor had done it of his own accord. Chancellor was covering up Monarch's murder. If this were discovered by Crown's other members, his downfall would be inevitable. And if he fell from grace, we would be free of Crown's pursuit. Also, if we could expose the true culprit and prove my innocence, the police would leave me be.
実際裏切り者としてジュネビエーブはハウス・スチュワードに殺された。多分話に嘘はないだろ
う。はい、私も見ましたから。彼女がどれだけハートフィールドさんを大切に思っているか。
When I touched her hand, I learned just how much she loved Monarch. I felt her loyalty and her sadness when she found out about his death. Her hatred towards Chancellor, who had stained her beloved memories, was vivid in my mind.
なるほどな。てっきりクラウンが総力を挙げて何かを企んでいるのだと思ったが、チャンセラーの単独行動だったのか。さすがにそれは想定の範囲外だな。
しかしおかげで俺らが集められた理由がよく分かったよ。クラウン内部にもバレないよう進めるために外部の手足が必要だったってとこだろうな。
それってチャンセラーの裏切りにいいように利用されてるだけじゃん。超ムカつくんだけど。
クラウンの連中のどこまでがチャンセラーの裏切りを知ってるかは分からないが、あのカッター女でも知らなかったくらいだからな。本当に一部のやつしかチャンセラーの目的を知らされていないと考えて良さそうだぜ。
じゃあもしかしてあのおじいちゃんも黒い服のおじさんたちもよく分かってないでサリーたちを追ってきてたの？
大きな組織にはよくあることですよ。命令に対してどうしてかなんて聞けばきっと処罰されるでしょうし。
だがおかげで目標が一つに絞れて好都合だな。
ああ、ハートフィールドを殺した証拠を見つけてメディアに流してやればいい。あのレベッカとかいうキャスターならすぐに報道してくれるだろう。あれだけ真実を知りたいって言ってたんだからな。
そうだな。問題は証拠を残しているかどうかだが。
ホテルには監視カメラがあったはずです。護送車で運ばれるまではその映像で無実を証明できるはずだと思ってましたから。
ならまずそいつを探りに行こう。もし監視カメラ映像に殺人現場が映り込んでいれば少なくともこいつは無実だと判明する。警察には確実に狙われなくなるだろう。
Ash gazed fondly at me, Sally clapped her hands over her mouth as soon as she saw it.
なにアッシュ君が笑った？
へえ、なるほどな。
何がなるほどなんです？
カミュニップ。
It seemed they'd figured out how things had changed between me and Ash with that split second of interaction. I never intended to hide it from them, but their rapid deduction made me feel even more embarrassed.
ではレベッカさんに証拠品を手に入れたら報道できるか先に聞いておきますね。
ああ、頼む。
I focused all my attention on my phone to hide my embarrassment, then shot Rebecca a message. Sorry for contacting you out of the blue. There's something I'd like to ask you, Rebecca. We're investigating the murder that took place in Rome, and we may be able to obtain conclusive evidence of the crime. If we do get it, can you lend us a hand? I feel bad for asking you out of nowhere like this, but I have no one else I can rely on. Please consider it. Her response was immediate. She said she was always ready for coverage. I'm always ready to report facts. Good luck.
決まりだな。できれば監視カメラに映っていなかった時のために現地で証拠を見つけておきたいところだが。
Oh, well, you know, maybe Camus isn't into romance novels, romance anime. And he can only deal with 2D women, right? The 3D women is beyond him.
殺人事件に居合わせた場所はローマの高級ホテルのレストランだと言っていたな。
はい。
ならまずはそこへ行くぞ。潜入調査だ。
We ate Carla's home-cooked meal, then prepared to set out for Rome. Carla was a bit flustered by our sudden departure.
あら、もう行くの？慌ただしいのね。
やらなきゃいけないことがあるんだ。でも終わったらまた来る。
そう、よかった。行ってらっしゃい、ペーター。
I feel sorry for her, you know. I mean, there's no like solution for her.
ああ、行ってきます。
Keeping up the guise of his father, Ash bid his mother goodbye. I had to wonder whether she would ever recognize Ash as her son again. Confused and sad, I went to step out of the house. Carla took my hand.
あの人のこと、よろしくね。
Love and affection flowed into my mind, warm as the sun. It was almost maternal. Does she actually know? Did she really see him as her son, or was it just my imagination? Though I couldn't say for sure, I knew that Ash was loved.
お任せください。お母さん。
I smiled back at her, squeezing her hand. Thus, we crossed the threshold into the blazing summer day. Maybe some piece of her knows that that's not... that her husband's dead. Italy, Rome, September 13th, 2028, 1958, Wednesday, Piazza di Spagna. After a long period of travel, we finally returned to Italy. We'd come back to the place where everything began. Seeing Rome once again had me feeling nostalgic.
あー、疲れた。お尻痛い。
はあ、さすがにバーデンからローマまでの移動は疲れたな。
でもまさか一度も止められないとは思いませんでした。黒服の人たちにも会いませんでしたし。
チャイルドナースが離反してチャンセラーを殺そうとしたんだろう。それなりに上層部でもごたついてるんじゃないか。
だろうな。あの戦闘力を考えるに彼女はクラウンの暗殺実行部隊か何かだろう。しかも我々を襲ってきたのは2名だけだと考えると、おそらく実際に使える人数は多くない。そのうちの1名が粛清されたとなると、内部で分裂が起きている可能性もあるだろうな。
となると現地調査も好都合ってわけだ。あとは事情も分からず俺らを犯罪者だと思って追ってる警察にさえ見つからなけりゃな。
ああ、とにかく警察に見つかる前に早く行くぞ。
そうだな。ディナーにはちょうどいい時間だ。
Italy, Rome, September 13th, 2028, 2100 hours, Wednesday, restaurant. Or 9 p.m. We kicked off our investigation at the high-end restaurant I'd visited that fateful day. As for the reservation, Sally booked us a table in their system. She even changed the seating plan so we'd be in the same spot as I was the last time.
ああ、サリーもご飯食べたかったな。
Sally and Rami were working behind the scenes. The cameras in this hotel weren't connected to a network, so we had to physically steal the footage. Our current plan involves sneaking into the security room where the guards changed shifts, then stealing the footage from that day. In the meantime, we plan to do some investigating and ask the restaurant staff a few questions.
僕はそういう上品なとこで飯食うより、こうやってハンバーガー食ってる方が好きだからいいけどね。
Through our newly bought earpieces, I could hear Rami and Sally slurping soft drinks from a fast food chain while we waited in the car. Or while waiting in the car. Not wanting to relax too much in everyone's familiar presence, I steeled myself and scanned the dining area. Things were so normal, you'd never known someone had died here, be it the guests or the staff. No one seemed to care. To the average person, it would appear the murder had occurred a long, long time ago. I mean, it was a few months ago. I was like them once. Back when I was a student, news about murders didn't concern me at all. I forgot the reports right away. Frozen grilled cheese. Oh man, that must be terrible. No matter how badly it affected those involved, the average person who would be more perturbed to wake up to something as minor as a moldy loaf of bread.
ミカ、あまり不安そうな表情をするな。店員に怪しまれるだろう。
そうだな。今日の筋書きは親戚一同に婚約の報告をするカップルってやつなんだ。しっかりしろよ、お二人さん。
Gibbs' reminder and Hamiel's ribbing prompted me to look sheepishly down at my dinnerware. Hamiel had crafted the plot on purpose so our ragtag group looked natural in the fancy restaurant.
今日は二人のために親戚がヨーロッパ中から集まってやったんだ。ほら、お祝いに乾杯するぞ。
二人の婚約に乾杯!
Even though I was fully aware we weren't supposed to get drunk, I took a sip of the champagne so the staff wouldn't get suspicious. Meanwhile, Ash was frozen with a glass in his hand.
そういえばアッシュさんはお酒が飲めないんでしたよね。
ああ。そりゃ飲まず嫌いってやつじゃないのか。飲んだらどうなるんだ。
あ、飲むと寝る。
ならやめた方が良さそうだな。酒がもったいない。
ああ、ではノンアルコールの飲み物をいただきましょう。
そうだな。私も車の運転があって飲めないからな。
Oh, Hamiel still wants a drink.
悪いね。お祝いの席なもんで。
Hamiel was happily drinking beside Camus, who seemed accustomed to this sort of thing. Camus called over the waiter and requested some drinks. Hamiel snatched away the champagne Ash and Gib had used for the toast, then guzzled them down in a flash. Upon seeing their generous consumption, I had one question.
ところでここの支払いって。
When I told them that neither of us had any money on hand, the others exchanged glances.
ああ、それなら心配するな。今俺らの懐はあったかいんだ。
そうですね。ここで食事を5回しても大丈夫なぐらいお金はありますから。
I sure hope they got it legally. I looked over at Ash, and our eyes met. He had to be thinking the same thing. Like us, the others must have had their fair share of experiences over the last few weeks. Hoping that they would share what happened once everything was over, I pretended to enjoy the meal like any other guest. Despite the fact that my murder charges stemmed from this very restaurant, no one appeared to notice me. Right then, Gib purposely dropped his fork. Before the waiter could come retrieve it, he reached for it to check if there were any scratches on the table legs or the chairs. Sweeping a glance across the floor, Gib sat back up. He shook his head with a grimace.
期待はしていなかったが、現場には何の痕跡も残ってはいないな。
結構時間経ってますからね。
Many guests had come to the restaurant since then. Even if there had been evidence, it must have vanished by now.
それで、君はあの日いた店員を覚えているか？
Gib turned his attention to me, and I nodded, feeling nervous. I'd handed off my gloves to a staff member. It was vital to me that I get them back before I went home, so I kept an eye on the employee in question, though I never really went home that day. Fortunately, I spotted them when I looked around the room. I quickly averted my eyes so they wouldn't notice me.
あの柱の右に立ってる方だったはずです。
そうか。
It would be unnatural to call them over from this distance. Until they walked closer, we kept our celebratory act. Needless to say, I was too tense to taste anything. All I could think of was Mr. Hartfield sitting in front of me and how he was killed afterward. The invitation came from someone who pretended to be Ida. The seat was reserved under her name. I still had no clue how they managed to do it. On our way to Rome, Sally had checked the reservation history. Sure enough, it had been reserved for Ida. But how was that possible? My gut told me someone from the outside overwrote the system, like we did for today.
Mika.
Ash called my name, snapping me out of my reverie. I turned to my left to see his eyes fixed on me.
ごめんなさい。せっかくのお祝いの席なのに。
Gib had warned me about that earlier. Logically, I knew I should act happy, but I couldn't get into it. Ash smiled softly at me.
ドレス。よく似合っているな。
Huh? He was only being considerate because we were on a mission, but I accepted his words at face value. My cheeks blazed with heat. I think this is thanks, Ash, my dear. Yeah, because we're supposed to be super close.
ありがとう。アッシュ。
Since he'd gone out of his way to act as my fiance, I figured I should meet him halfway. I put a bit more into my act as his loving future wife.
今なんつった？
Ash gawked at me in confusion.
ありがとう。アッシュって。
I wasn't used to speaking so affectionately, so it felt awkward every time I said it, but his reaction sure was something. He suddenly choked.
ちょっと大丈夫？アッシュ、しっかりして。
I reacted the way a doting fiancé would, eagerly rubbing his back. It took a while for him to calm down, though.
大丈夫だ。
He was practically panting, catching his breath. Hemiel watched him with great interest.
こりゃ善と多難だな、アッシュ。
うるせえ。
それよりそろそろ時間だ。ラミー、サリー、二人も準備はいいか？
バッチリ。そっちは異常がなさそうか。店内の様子見といて。
ああ、任せろ。
It sounded like Rami and Sally were doing some kind of prep work. They must have snuck inside. All that was left was for them to steal the camera data without getting caught. In the meantime, we would question the restaurant staff. We continued to dine. Soon it was time for the staff to bring out the main course, and time for the next phase of our mission. Tantalizing dishes were lined up before us. While Ash and I chatted away in a manner befitting of an engaged couple, Hamiel called out to the waiter.
ああ、君、ちょっといいかな。
何かご用でしょうか？
いや、さっき別の客が話しているのを聞いたんだが、このレストランで幽霊が出るって本当かい？
は、幽霊でございますか？
うちの姪の誕生日にまたここに来ようと思っていたんだが、姪は怖がりなんだ。もし出るなら連れてくるのはまずいと思ってね。
いえ、当店にそのような噂はございませんが。
本当かい？でもほら、ここで殺人事件があったっていうじゃないか。だからその噂もあながち嘘じゃないと思っててさ。私は姪を怖がらせたくないんだ。本当のところ教えてくれないか。チップを弾むから。なあ、噂がないって言うならせめて殺人事件が起きた席ぐらい教えてくれないか。そこは予約を外したいからさ。
申し訳ないのですが。
The waiter looked away awkwardly. It was as clear as day that the murder had taken place at this very table.
もしかしてここがその席なんですか？
そんな。
予約時にそんな話はなかったんですが。
今晩は婚約の席なので一番いい席をと頼みましたが、まさか嘘を。
申し訳ございません。すぐに上の者に確認を取ってまいりますので。
ああ、待った待った。せっかくのめでたい席で大ごとにしたくないじゃないか。私が聞いてこよう。 ちょっと君、案内してくれるかな？
Hamiel got up from his seat, and the staff escorted him out of the dining room. His plan was to corner them so that they had no choice but to divulge the truth.
これでうまくいくんですかね。
彼はプロだ。あとは任せるとしよ
よくあんなことできるな。
From those words alone, I could tell Ash was dead tired. I was also on edge, never knowing when the staff might figure out I was here that day. Right then, I heard Rami's voice from the earpiece.
僕たちはもう脱出するよ。ちょっと変なことが分かったんだ。合流したら連絡するから。
Something weird. What could it be? It certainly piqued my curiosity, but they probably couldn't talk for too long. Their voices cut out right after. Hamiel eventually returned, a cynical look on his face.
どうでした？
店を出たら話す。ま、ろくな手がかりはなかったけどな。
Italy, Rome, September 13th, 2028, 22:45, Wednesday, hotel. Fortunately, everyone made it out of the restaurant without detection. We opted to stay in a Roman hotel for the time being.
う。それで、そちらはどうだった？
それがさ、事件当日の録画データが入ってたはずの SD カードが全部警察に押収されてたんだ。しかもホテルのカメラ全部のが。
なんだと？
ただ消去しただけならサリーが復元できたのにさ。物がないと何にもできないよ。もう嫌になっちゃう。
Sally showed us a photo of what appeared to be a document from the investigation. It was created when the surveillance camera data was submitted.
警察か。
だが警察が押収したままだとなると、犯人は監視カメラに映っていると確定したな。
If the cameras didn't capture anything relevant to the case, the police would have left the footage as it was after reviewing it. But they were holding onto it, which could only mean there was something they didn't want people to see.
相変わらず言いなりですね、警察も。
それでハミエルの方はどうだった？
残念だがこっちも手がかりはなかった。当日いた客の特徴を聞いたが、ろくに覚えちゃいなかったよ。ま、ずいぶん前の事件だし、期待しちゃいなかったけどな。だが妙な話は聞いた。あの事件の後に何人かが急に辞めたって話をな。
急にか。
ああ、どいつもこいつもろくに挨拶なしだとよ。もしかしたら当日見ちまったやつかもしれないな。
見たってまさか殺人現場を？
だとすると、もう生きていないかもしれないな。
Heavy silence fell over the room. No one could deny it.
そもそも当日のウェイターも構成員だったって可能性もある。できればそっちにかけようぜ。
そうそう、絶対そうだって。で、これからどうする？レストランじゃ手がかりなかったけど。
残る手は押収されたデータを警察に盗みに行くぐらいか。
しかしこの書類を見る限り、押収したのはローマ市警だな。あそこは忍び込むのも困難だが。
はあ、なんでアナログな録画システムだったんだろう。普通の防犯システムに加入しててくれれば、いつも通りクラウドからデータ持ってこれたのに。
金払って防犯システムに入ってる方がかえってハッカーに狙われやすいってのも皮肉な話だな。
むしろその環境だからこそ殺人現場に選ばれたのかもしれないな。
常時録画するならそっちの方が合理的かもしれないけど。警察がクラウドに保存してないかな。
Sally did some digging, but to no avail.
盗み出すしかないみたいだな。
サリー、見取り図を調べられる？
はーい。
She hacked into Rome's police department right away, retrieving its map and security information. Her skills were impressive as always.
毎度ながらすごいですね。このハッキング技術は警察の見取り図まで調べられてしまうとは。
国の中枢を支える組織でさえハッキングされたことがあるぐらいだ。世の中のセキュリティはまだまだ脆弱だってわけだな。
Judging by the map displayed on the screen and the pictures we obtained, Rome's police department was both massive and robust.
これで完了。どう？ラミ君忍び込めそう？
いや無理、絶対無理、これは無理。
大怪盗様の割には即答だな。
いやだってこれ見てよ、全然窓からも入れないようになってんじゃん。正面突破しろってこと？だいたい忍び込めるなら逃げてるし、護送車で運ばれる前にさ。
確かにそうですね。
All of us had been detained in Rome's police department that day. Taking a look at the floor plan Sally obtained, I noticed something.
この証拠品保管場所って取調室の近くなんですね。
It had been a while, but I vaguely remembered being taken to the interrogation room on this floor plan. My comment prompted everyone to lapse into thought with pensive expressions.
そういえば僕もここに通された気がします。
俺もだ。
取り調べって言えるような上品な代物じゃなかったけどな。
While it was virtually impossible to sneak inside, we at least knew where we had to go once we were there.
なら私が行きます。
は？お前何言って。
私がわざと捕まって盗んできます。ですから皆さんは陽動をお願いします。
でも証拠品保管庫の鍵はどうすんの？さすがに鍵が開きっぱなしってことはないと思うけど。
ここの鍵は電子式みたいだよ。多分どの警官でも持ってるような普通のセキュリティカードだと思うけど。
わかった。つまりそのセキュリティカードを手に入れればいいんでしょ？
おいおい、マジかよ。
The others thought I was being unreasonable, but we had to do this. I went on to explain my strategy. The following day, Italy, Rome, September 14th, 2028, noon, Thursday, Termini Station. Ash and I were running around the city of Rome. Police chased after us on motorcycles. Their numbers kept growing as they called for backup. Chancellor said he still had a use for me. He'd probably relayed that to the police as well, warning them not to kill me. At the very least, they'd keep me alive. That made me the most qualified person to run this mission. Ash didn't like the idea of me handling this alone, and I couldn't blame him. The risk of failure was high. That was why we ran together and left the rest for the others. I believed in them. We were going to see this through. I'd contacted Rebecca yesterday, promising to give her the evidence at sunset. Trusting that we would succeed, she got to work preparing the broadcast. Failure was not an option. Right then, a motorcycle stopped in front of us, blocking our path.
警察だ、止まれ。くそ。おとなしく投降しろ。抵抗するんじゃない。
Patrol cars and motorcycles surrounded us. And just like that, Ash and I found ourselves inside a patrol car heading to the police department. Several minutes later, we were taken to the familiar interrogation room.
ほら、おとなしくここに入れ。
Ash and I were both handcuffed. An officer shoved us into the room and forced us into the chairs. Shortly after, another policeman came running.
失礼いたします。ブラックメンが到着されました。
そんなはずないだろう。まだ連絡をしていないはずだ。
ですが、バッジも本物でしたし、いつもいらっしゃる方かと。
私が確認してくる。二人を見張っていろ。
はっ。
By the guys in black, he must have been referring to Crown's agents. Upon hearing that they'd arrived, the first officer rushed to greet them. The other stayed behind as our sole chaperone. Now was our chance.
ごめんなさい。
With both his hands still handcuffed, Ash whacked the man in the back of his head. He was knocked unconscious immediately.
急ぐぞ。
He quickly fished the handcuff key out of the officer's pocket and freed us. After stealing the man's security card, we left the room. Using the stolen security card, we made it to the evidence room and searched for the confiscated data from the day of the incident.
あった。これだな。
There were several SD cards inside. They probably contained footage from all of the cameras. I grabbed them, put them in my pocket, and slipped back out with Ash.
すぐに脱出するぞ。
はい。
Knowing our belongings would be confiscated when we were caught, we hadn't brought anything with us. Instead, we memorized our escape route beforehand. It was difficult to coordinate with everyone else on any sort of timetable, but I put my trust in them. An explosion went off, and it was too early. Those were the fireworks meant for when we reached the underground parking lot.
ペースが悪いな。急ぐぞ。
はい。
We avoided the police as the others drew attention here and there. Rami activated the sensor near the back door to confuse the guards, while Kawu set off fireworks in the parking lot. Sally flooded them with fake reports with her hacking skills, and Hamio used his disguise to stir them up from the inside. Gib fired off shots to create chaos. I willed my legs to go harder and faster so I wouldn't waste the opportunity they'd given me. Soon, Ash and I hopped onto the bike we'd hidden in the underground parking lot and left the police department behind. However,
ハミエルバッチリバレてんじゃん。
by the time we regrouped, we had police on our tail. Ash and I rode the bike, while the others were in the usual vehicle. They'd escaped as quickly as possible.
仕方ないだろう。合言葉とか聞かれたんだぜ。俺ができるのはハったりだけだ。知らないことを答えるなんて無理に決まってる。
Hamio peeled off the black suit he was wearing and changed into his usual clothes. In fact, the guy in black the police mentioned when we were in the interrogation room was Hamio in disguise. We knew someone from Crown would come if we got caught, so we created our own plan with that in mind. Sadly, they were one step ahead of us.
おい、パトカーが増えてないか。
もしかしたら盗み出したものが何なのかバレたのかもしれないな。おいサリー、映像の解析はまだか。
待ってよ。いっぱいあるんだもん。見つけるの大変なんだから。
Inside the car, Sally worked to retrieve the data from the stolen SD cards and find the evidence we needed. But with the sheer volume of footage, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. Sally plugged in each SD card, scanned it, and yanked it out. After some time, she finally found the footage from the day of the incident.
あった。お姉ちゃんと知らないおじさんが映ってる。殺されたのってこの人だよね。
She sent screenshots to my phone one after another. The person in the footage was indeed Mr. Hartfield.
この人だよ。間違いない。
The footage also showed how Stewart slashing at Mr. Hartfield's back. He'd stabbed the man with a hidden blade small enough to hold in his palm. After the execution, House Stewart whispered something into Chancellor's ear. That proved it. House Stewart was Mr. Hartfield's true killer.
よっしゃ、証拠ゲットじゃん。
やりましたね。
チャンセラーの関与も映ってる。十分な証拠になるはずだ。急いで逃げてレベッカと約束した場所まで行くぞ。
はい。
While we managed to find the proof we needed, we didn't have the luxury of celebrating. More and more patrol cars drove up behind us, so we tried to shake them off with our reckless driving. A loud crack resounded through the air.
嘘。
The sound came from our friend's car. I whipped my head around to when I heard Sally scream, then gasped in shock. A knife jutted out of her laptop screen, which had been split in half.
サリーのロリロリポップ17号が。
え、そのパソコンそんな名前だったんですか。
てか
ナイフ投げたの誰？
あそこハウススチュワードだよ。
Oh, of course it's House Steward. Camo pointed towards a vintage car that had just whizzed past us in the oncoming lane. House Steward was inside. He'd thrown the knife right when our car passed by.
サリー、SD カードは無事？
それは大丈夫。カードリーダーは壊れてないよ。でもせっかくデータ吸い出しとこうと思ったのに。
証拠が無事ならいい。早く合流場所へ行くぞ。
行くったって言ってもこれ無理じゃね？
I looked up and saw a horde of patrol cars heading straight for us. Our car and motorcycle accelerated in tandem to escape the police chase. We were getting farther and farther away from our meeting point. Italy Rome, September 14th, 2028, 1829, Thursday, derelict building. Oh, this is a new piece of art. In the end, we were cornered by an abandoned building on the city outskirts. We created a barricade out of wreckage to slow their break-in, then ran up to the top floor and shut ourselves in.
そこにいるのは分かっている。早く人質を解放して出てきなさい。
やれやれ。あいつらの中で俺らはどういう犯人ってことになってるんだ？
十中八九、人質とはミカのことだろうな。
本当に適当だな警察ってのは。
指名手配犯が立てこもっているんだ。しかもチャンスラーにとって不利になる証拠品と必要な人材が一緒にな。
くそ、あと少しだってのに。
焦るな。機会を待てばいい。おい、レベッカとの連絡は取れたか？
はい、もう待ち合わせの場所にいるそうです。でも道路が封鎖されてて、私たちのいる場所へは来られそうにないみたいです。
ま、普通に考えて入れさせないよな。
サリーのロリロリポップ18号。
Sally desperately tried to restore her laptop, her eyes full of tears. Wait a minute, didn't you say it was lollipop number 17?
ダメだ。回路も完全にいっちゃってる。パーツもないし、直せないよ。
これでは監視カメラは見られないですし、外の状況もわからないですね。
おい、元警官。こういう時、警察はどうするんだ？
そうだな。私だったら日が暮れたと同時に突入するだろうな。
夜明けまで待ってくんないの？
さっき車両が入る音がしただろう。おそらく特殊部隊が現場に到着した。夜間作戦用の暗視装置付きのヘルメットもあるはずだ。突入する武器も装備も十分な状況で夜明けを待つ必要がない。今は我々の状況を探っているところだろうが、日が暮れて我々の視界が悪くなったところを狙って30分以内には突入するだろうな。
迎え撃つか？
それはやめておけ。ここにある私の銃だけでは話にならない。あちらは銃器だけでなく先行音響手榴弾も催涙弾も持っている相手だ。力任せになんとかなるような相手じゃない。
こっちの爆弾も先ほど使ってしまってないですしね。
ああ、抵抗したところですぐに殺されるのがオチだ。
絶対絶命か。
じゃあどうすんの？
これだけ包囲されていては脱出も難しい。突入のタイミングで逃げたとしても確実に捕まるだろうな。
We had no idea what to do. It had us all frustrated, especially since we were so close to giving Rebecca the evidence we'd risked our lives to obtain. If we handed over the evidence, Chancellor's betrayal would be exposed. My friends wouldn't be in danger any longer, But if we were captured here, the data would be confiscated and we'd fall into Crown's clutches again. They might kill the others to prevent leaks. I couldn't let that happen. Nothing was more important to me than their lives.
私がおとりになります。その間にアッシュさんがバイクでレベッカさんの元へ証拠品を運んでください。
Looking up, I locked eyes with everyone.
私なら捕まっても殺されないはずです。それにバイクの運転が得意なアッシュさんならきっと包囲も突破できます。だから
ってお前をおとりになんてできるかよ。どうしてお前はいつもそうなんだ。
Ash choked out a growl, grabbing my shoulders. Genuine anger blazed in his eyes.
お前が捕まったら相手の思うツボだろうが。捕まっても殺されない。本気でそう思ってんのか。そんな保証どこにもない。武装した特殊部隊が相手なんだ。抵抗する素振りを見せたら射殺されるかもしれないだろう。お前に何かあったら俺は。
His hands trembled on my shoulders. He was terrified of losing me. Please trust me.
私を信じてください。
I held Ash's gaze, telling him how I truly felt.
私なら大丈夫です。必ず成功させますから。アッシュさんは私を信じて言ってください。
信じてるさ。信じてるからこそお前には任せたくないんだ。
His grip on my shoulders tightened, as though he intended to stop me from going anywhere.
きっとお前はどうにかしようとしちまうからな。俺を生かせるために無茶をするに決まってる。
I mean, Ash knows us too well. I couldn't deny that, but the same applied to Ash. He definitely pushed himself too hard.
もうミカが傷ついたり犠牲になるのはたくさんなんだよ。
私は犠牲になるつもりはありません。無茶はしませんから。信じてください。
His arms suddenly relaxed, his stern expression turning sad and somber.
その言葉を信じられるほど俺はお前に無関心じゃねえよ。それくらいわかるだろ。
Our conversation wasn't going anywhere.
とにかくお前がおとりになる必要はない。おとりなら俺がなる。その隙にお前はレベッカのところへ逃げろ。
でもそんなことをしたらアッシュさんが。
俺はどうなってもいい。お前さえ無事に逃げられれば。
おいおい、夫婦喧嘩ならよそでやってくれ。
Hamiel's words brought me back to my senses. Everyone was looking at us, astounded.
そうだよ。兄貴以外の誰がバイクの運転に適任だって言うのさ。
そういうことだ。物を運ぶのはあんたら二人でだ。おとりは外野の仕事だろ。
The others chuckled, their gazes brimming with trust.
ミカはあいつらに捕まったらまずいんだ。だいたいミカが捕まったらあとは用済みってなって僕らが殺されるかもしんないじゃん。
そうですよ。僕らが証拠品を持ってるとハウススチュワードが知っているんです。あなたが捕獲された瞬間撃ってくるかも。
軍ではなく警察だ。いきなりの発砲はないだろうが、この状況なら何かと言い訳をしやすいしな。口封じのタイミングにはうってつけだ。そもそも君がおとりになったところで我々が逃げる時間すら稼げないだろうな。ここは本職に任せるんだ。
そうだよ。お姉ちゃんはサリーより足が遅いんだって忘れちゃった？
それはでも
これは決定事項だ。俺らが時間稼ぎをしている間に二人は証拠品を持ってさっさと報道して真犯人を暴いてくれ。それがここにいる全員助かるかもしれない最善の方法だ。
Rami, Camus, Gib, and Sally nodded in tandem. I I exchanged glances with Ash, then nodded.
ああ、わかった。
必ずレベッカさんの元へ運びます。
決まりだな。決行は警察が突入してくるタイミング。おそらくは日暮れから30分以内だろう。二人は今のうちに屋上から退路の方角を確認しておいてくれ。周囲に高い建物はないから、橋へ行かなければ警察にも見つからないはずだ。
わかった。
We headed to the rooftop as he suggested. The strong winds embraced us as we emerged. Summer was coming to an end. A cool breeze flowed through the sweltering streets of Rome. Ash drew me close by my shoulders.
どこに行くつもりだ？
大事なことは忘れないようにね。
これでいいのか？
Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour, so why don't we stop it here? This is meowmurai. You've been watching Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.